Chapter 4. Cora looked at Uncas and asked, "Aren't you going to follow them?" "Uncas will stay," the young Mohican answered in English. "You must go to my father. I ask you to go," Cora said. Uncas looked sadly at her beautiful face. Then he jumped into the river and followed his friend and his father. Cora turned to Duncan. "Please go with them," she said. Duncan looked at the beautiful Elise, and she put her hand on his arm. Elise was young and frightened. Cora, Elise, and Duncan came into the cave. They sat and talked and began to feel happier. Then suddenly they heard war cries. The Hurons again. "We'll die now. They are near the cave," said Cora. An Indian shouted, "Hawkeye!" And then more Indians began to shout Hawkeye's name. They hated him and they wanted to kill him. They looked for him everywhere but couldn't find him. Then it was strangely quiet again. "They went away," Duncan said to the girls. "We're safe." Elise said happily, "We'll see our father. We won't die." Then her face changed. Her blue eyes opened wide. Duncan looked up and saw the angry, dark face of Magua outside the cave. He took his gun, went out of the cave, and fired. There was a lot of smoke from the gun, and for a minute, Duncan couldn't see anything. Magua turned around quickly and ran away. There was no sound in the woods for 3 or 2 minutes. Then suddenly, loud war cries came from Magua and other Hurons. The Indians ran into the cave and angrily pulled the girls and Duncan outside. The Indians smiled. They had the white men and the daughters of the British colonel. Some of the Indians went back into the cave. They looked for Hawkeye, but he was not there. "Where's Hawkeye?" Magua asked Duncan. "He's not here," answered the mayor. "Tell us, where is he? Is he dead?" "He isn't dead. He went away." "Is he a bird? Could he fly away? Or is he a fish? Could he swim across the river?" "The Hurons are not stupid," said Magua angrily. "He's not a fish, but he can swim. He swam down the river, but you didn't see him," answered Duncan. He was angry. "Why did you stay? Do you want to lose your life? A white man doesn't leave women." "And where are Çinqaçquk and Uncas? Did they swim down the river too?" "Yes," Duncan answered. The Hurons watched their conversation and waited. Then Magua told them, about the conversation in their language. They shouted loudly and looked with wild and angry eyes at the girls and Duncan. Suddenly, a dark hand of a young Indian pulled Alice's long hair. Duncan wanted to stop him. The Indians pulled out his knife, but an old Indian stopped the young man. "Wait, don't stop her," he said. He turned to Duncan and the girls. "Go," he said. Magua and 2 Indians took them down to the river, and they got into a canoe. It was again a dangerous trip down the fast river, but the Hurons knew the river well. Then they got out of the canoe and walked for a long time through the thick woods. At night, they stopped. A young Huron killed an animal, and they sat down and ate.